Welcome back to Process Cast with Mark Anderson and Samantha Blake, your go-to podcast for insights into business process management and the technologies transforming the way we work. In this episode, Samantha and Mark dive into a business process you can import into your HEFLO account for free. Click the link in the description to get it.
Okay, think about your own workday. Sometime, somewhere, you've probably needed something, right? A new software thing, maybe some office supplies, or even like a specialist for a project.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Seems simple enough. You ask, you hopefully get it. But what if I told you there's usually this whole structured thing happening behind the scenes?
Yes. The procurement process.
Exactly. So today, we're going to explore that. We'll look at the typical steps an organization takes to actually get the stuff, goods, and services it needs to run.
That's right. And what looks like just asking for something often kicks off this, carefully planned sequence. Understanding it isn't just academic, it helps you see where things run smoothly or maybe where they get stuck in pretty much any company.
Right. And we're basing this chat on a specific document, actually. It's called Acquisition of Goods and Services, PDF, version 2. Looks like it was put together by James Carter on April 2nd, 2025.
Yep. So think of this as us walking through that document, pulling out the key stages, who does what, giving you a map, essentially.
Exactly. Our goal here is to give you a clear picture of how your workplace, or really any organization, gets the resources it needs. Might give you some insights into, why getting that new chair takes a while or who has to approve things.
We'll try to keep it clear, get into the details, but avoid getting lost in jargon.
Yeah. So, the mission. Pull out the core steps, figure out who the key players are in this whole acquisition game. By the end, you should have a pretty solid idea of this often invisible process.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. It all kicks off when someone needs something, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
The process starts with what the document calls the Create Purchase Request task. And the person doing that is the requester.
So that's like any employee who realizes, hey, we need this thing.
Could be, yeah. Or someone representing a whole department. They realize they need certain goods or maybe a service. And interestingly, a good request isn't just about getting approval.
Mm-hmm.
It also creates a paper trail that can be super useful later, for checking if the purchase was actually worth it. Okay. So if I realize my team needs, say, new monitors or we need a consultant, I'm the requester. But it sounds like it's more than just firing off an email.
Oh, definitely. To make it official and trackable, the requester has to provide some specific details. First off, a really clear description of exactly what goods or services are needed. Being vague here just causes problems later.
Makes sense. Need computer isn't helpful. Need 5 laptops, Model X, for the new design team. Much better. What else?
Quantity, obviously. How many? And the expected delivery date. When do you need it by? This helps purchasing plan things out.
Okay, what, how many, when? Got it.
Then, crucially, the cost center or budget code. Where's the money coming from? You got to know that for the finance folks.
Right, the money trail.
Exactly. And probably most important, the business justification. Why do you need this? How does it help the company? This helps managers decide what's important, what gets priority.
Okay, the why, that's key.
And finally, if the requester has a preferred supplier, they should mention it. Though that doesn't guarantee they'll be chosen.
Gotcha. So a detailed purchase request is step 1. Formalizes the need, gets the ball rolling. Okay, request submitted. Now what? It doesn't just get bought automatically, right?
Nope. Next up is evaluate purchase request. This is where the manager comes in. Their job is to review it, check if it's necessary, if the info is right, and if it follows company rules.
So the manager is the first gatekeeper, making sure it's a legit need and fits the plan. Why the manager first, though? What are they looking at that maybe the requester didn't think about?
Good question. The manager has that wider view, right? They know the team's priorities, the bigger company goals. They check if this request actually fits in. Does it make sense now?
Strategic alignment.
Sort of, yeah. And they check the basics, too, is all the info there. Description, quantity, dates, cost code. Missing stuff just means delays.
What else is on their checklist?
Budget, big one. Is there actually money allocated for this? They got to check. And then compliance with procurement policies. Like, do we have to use certain suppliers? Is the amount so high it needs extra approvals? Just making sure it follows the company's purchasing rules.
Okay, so it's not just do we need it, but can we afford it? And does it follow the rules? What happens if the manager looks at it? Can they just say yes or no?
Well, there are a few outcomes. They can approve it and it moves on. They can reject it, maybe no budget, or the justification wasn't strong enough. That's pretty common, actually.
Lack of clear business need. I can see that.
Or they might send it back to the requester, like, need more info here, or can you tweak this part? Only the approved ones move forward.
Okay, so the manager gives a thumbs up or asks for changes. Let's say it gets approved, budget's fine. Now we actually need to find someone to sell us this thing, right?
Exactly. Approval triggers request quotations. And this is where the purchasing clerk steps up. Their job is to contact suppliers and get price quotes.
Okay, the purchasing clerk, they're the ones dealing with the vendors.
Right. And interestingly, putting extra effort into making that request for quotation, the RFQ, really detailed upfront. It seems like more work, but it actually saves a ton of time and hassle later, avoids misunderstandings.
Makes sense. So how do they get these quotes? Does having a preferred supplier make it quicker? Or are there downsides to only asking one place?
They usually create and send out a formal RFQ document. It spells out everything. Detailed description, quantity, delivery needs, any tech specs, payment terms, delivery conditions, the whole 9 yards.
So it's super specific.
It needs to be. Now, about preferred suppliers. Yeah, having a go-to vendor can be quick because you have a relationship. But the downside, you might miss out on better prices or maybe newer solutions from someone else. Good procurement usually balances using known vendors with exploring new ones.
So they don't just call up their favorite supplier.
Usually not. Most companies have rules you need to get, say, at least 3 quotes. So the clerk reaches out to multiple potential suppliers, gets competitive bids. It's about getting the best value.
Right, shopping around, good practice.
And it reduces risk, too, not relying on just one source for everything.
Okay, so the quotes start coming back to the purchasing clerk. What then? Just pick the cheapest one.
Not quite. The next task is consolidate quotations. The clerk gathers all those quotes and organizes them so they can be easily compared, side by side, ideally.
Making sense of the offers. How do they do that?
Well, first, they check if each quote is actually complete and answers everything in the RFQ. Then they might standardize things like make sure all prices are in dollars per unit, whatever makes it easy to compare apples to apples.
Okay, standardize the format.
Yep. Then they highlight the key differences. Price, obviously, but also delivery times, payment terms, warranties, anything relevant. Often they'll make a summary sheet, like a comparison chart. Pros and cons of each.
That sounds super helpful for making the final decision. Okay, quotes are consolidated. What's the next approval hurdle?
It's called approve purchase. This is another authorization step. Could be the original manager again, maybe someone higher up in procurement or even finance, depending on the cost.
Another checkpoint. What are they looking for this time?
Compliance is big here. Does the chosen supplier meet all our rules? Does the purchase still fit the budget? Is all the paperwork, the RFQ, the quotes, the comparison, all there and correct? Basically a final sanity check before committing money.
And does the approval process change, like if it's a really expensive purchase?
Absolutely. Company policy usually dictates that. Small purchases might just need the manager. Big ones might need the department head, maybe even a VP or CFO signature. Multiple levels for bigger spends.
Okay, finally approved. Now we order. But wait, the document mentions register suppliers. What's that? Sounds a bit like paperwork. Why is it important?
Yes. That's a sub-process. It only happens if the supplier they picked is new to the company. It's about getting them properly set up in the system. And yeah, it might seem bureaucratic, but it's really important for risk management.
Risk management, how so?
Well, you need to make sure you're dealing with a legitimate company, right?
Yeah.
Check their legal status, financial stability maybe, make sure they're not on some blacklist. It helps prevent fraud, ensures ethical sourcing, stuff that can really bite you reputationally if you get it wrong.
Okay. Due diligence on the vendor. What info do they collect?
Basic contact info, tax ID, legal stuff. They verify bank details for payment, super important. Then they assign the supplier a unique ID in the company's system and let everyone know, like accounts payable, that this supplier is good to go.
Got it. Vetting the new guy. Okay, so supplier's registered, or was already. Now we order.
The purchasing clerk handles the place purchase order task. They create the official purchase order, the PO, and send it to the supplier.
The PO. That sounds official.
It is. It's basically a legally binding contract. It lays out exactly what's being bought, quantities, agreed prices, delivery terms, payment terms, all the conditions. It's the formal commitment.
So sending the PO is the go signal for the supplier.
Pretty much. Once they get that PO, they start processing the order on their end.
Okay. Order placed. Does the original requester, the person who needed the thing,
Yeah.
just wait?
Not exactly. The purchasing clerk has one more step. Send purchase confirmation to requester. It's about closing the loop internally.
Keeping the requester in the know. What's in that confirmation?
Usually the PO number for reference, a summary of what was ordered, who the supplier is, and critically, the expected delivery date. Plus, who to contact if they have questions. Just basic transparency, letting them plan.
Communication, again, seems vital. Okay, time passes. The goods or services arrive. The document mentioned 2 different paths here.
That's right. It splits based on what you bought. For services, the task is receive services, and that falls back to the original requester.
So the person who asked for the service confirms it was done right.
How? They'd review any reports or deliverables, maybe check with their team if the work was satisfactory, met the requirements. Once they're happy, they log it in the system basically saying, yes, service received, okay to pay.
So they sign off on it.
Exactly. Confirms the value was delivered, then you hit the services received endpoint for that path.
Okay, makes sense for services. What about physical stuff? Goods arriving at the loading dock.
For goods, it's receive purchased goods, and that's usually handled by the warehouse team.
The warehouse crew, what do they do?
When the delivery shows up, they check the paperwork against the PO. Correct items, correct quantities. Is the packaging okay? They inspect the actual goods for damage, maybe do quality checks.
Checking it all matches.
Right. Then they record it in the inventory system, generate a goods receipt note. If there are problems, wrong items, damaged goods, they report those discrepancies. Once everything's checked and accepted, you hit the goods received end event.
So the warehouse is the checkpoint for physical items. Cool. Now, this all sounds like the happy path. What if things go wrong, like the manager says no early on or something gets canceled?
Yep, the document covers that. There's the inform requester of cancellation task. The manager does this if a request gets killed off, maybe even after initial approval if something changes, like the budget disappears.
Delivering the bad news, what should they include?
Needs to be clear why it was canceled, budget gone, didn't meet policy, info wrong. And ideally, give guidance, can it be resubmitted with changes? Who to talk to? Transparency helps. That leads to the request canceled end event.
Okay. And there was also notify purchase request rejection. How's that different?
Subtle difference, mainly timing. Rejection usually happens right after that initial manager evaluation. It's the first no. Cancellation might happen later, but the notification for rejection, same idea. Tell the requester why it was rejected. Again, transparency. Maybe they can fix it and try again. This leads to the request rejected end event.
Got it. Rejection is early, cancellation can be later. So quite a few people involved here. Can we quickly recap the main players, the performers, as the document calls them?
Sure. 4 main ones. You've got the requester, starts it all, needs the thing, submits the request, might confirm service receipt later.
Yep.
Then the manager reviews and approves that initial request. The first gatekeeper checks alignment and budget.
Right.
Then the purchasing clerk, the operational hub, deals with suppliers, gets quotes, creates the PO, makes the purchase happen.
A deal maker.
Kind of. And finally, the warehouse. Receives and checks physical goods. The gatekeepers for tangible items.
Requester, manager, purchasing clerk, warehouse, a whole team effort, really.
Absolutely. From that first thought of we need this all the way to getting it or confirming the service, it's definitely a journey.
It really is. What looks simple, just buying something, is actually this structured flow with checks and balances.
Yeah.
Makes sense when you lay it out.
Yeah, it's designed ideally for efficiency, making sure rules are followed and money is spent wisely.
So thinking back to needing that software or those supplies,
Yeah.
we've now seen all the hoops it might jump through. Definitely more involved than just asking.
For sure. A defined structure, specific roles, multiple approval points. They're there for good reason, usually control, compliance, financial responsibility.
This has been super insightful, actually, peeking behind that curtain. So for everyone listening, as you think about this process, maybe consider this. Where do you see potential bumps or slowdowns in how things get bought where you work?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like based on this structure, what small tweaks could maybe make things run a bit smoother? Reflecting on your own experiences might spark some ideas.
Definitely. Understanding the why behind the steps can help pinpoint those areas for improvement. Maybe it's clear requests up front, maybe it's faster approvals. And, while we walk through this specific documents process, the core ideas, pretty common across many organizations, even if the details differ, it's a process worth knowing a bit about.
Thank you for listening to ProcessCast. This episode was brought to you by HEFLO, the BPM platform that empowers businesses to document, automate, and optimize their processes with AI. Experience the intelligence to simplify complex business processes and accelerate your growth with our complete management solution. Visit heflo.com to learn more. Be sure to follow ProcessCast for more insights on business process management, and don't forget to share this episode with your network. Until next time.